Hey guys, what's going on? Here I'm making a quick little rigging video. This is for the people who do still have some knowledge on rigging. This is just a quick tip and a quick way of doing switching, FK to IK switching instead of using set-driven keys using utility nodes. I actually did make a tutorial on this already, but since it was 18 minutes, it was too long for me to post up. So I'm gonna try to make this one a little bit quicker and get right to the point, so you guys can see what I'm doing, and then I can upload it on YouTube and Facebook, and then you guys can give me feedback. See what you guys like, don't like, have any questions, and feel free just to ask me. All right, well, over here I made a simple little scene. It has both FK and IK setups on a single chain, which is the center one over here. So usually once you have FK and IK constraint to the main bone, what you have is I'll show you really quick. If I select this bone, you have two constraints on this single chain bone, which is FK and IK if you've accordingly prefix your names correctly, so you know which is which. So since these both are active, means that if I was to move a controller right now, what's gonna happen is that the IK is gonna be moving, but since it's gonna evaluate between both solutions because both of them are technically controlling the single chain one to one. So we want to have this switch from FK to IK on a controller that we previously set, so that we can say, okay, I want strictly to control an FK or strictly control an IK. So what I'm gonna do is that I actually didn't do. I'm just gonna quickly make this right now. I'm gonna make a controller here, and I'm just gonna use this locator, and I'm gonna add an attribute, and I have my own little shelf here, but you can go to modify add attribute, and you're gonna get the same window here. So I'm gonna say FK to IK, and then I'm gonna make it a float, and I'm gonna say the minimum value for FK is gonna be 0, and when I want it to be IK, I want it to be maximum of 10, and then set the default at 0. So I'm gonna hit OK. So now I have FK to IK switch controller that I can use to drive those constraints. Now usually in other cases, what people would do is they would go up to animate set driven key set, and then use this to drive the constraints, which is let me see, let me find it really quick. Just right here to control these. But the problem with that, actually, there's no problem. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. One thing when you do set driven keys, and what it does is that it creates a curve, an animation curve in the graph editor. And for animators spend most of their time in the graph editor. So I've kind of thought to myself, well, you know, an animator could accidentally, hoping not, but could accidentally go into the graph editor, mess with the set driven key curve that is driving the switching between FK and IK, and if they mess that up, pretty much the animator is going to have a lot of difficulties with the rig, and then you're going to cause a lot of issues, and then you have to start doing trial and error and see what happened. So we don't want to cause more pain and headaches to the animators, and we want to make a friendly rig that animators can use, and they don't have to worry about breaking. So I start using utility node based rigging to drive my FK and IK settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Window, Rendering, Hypershade, and this is pretty much where we're going to have to set everything up. So right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up these three constraints that have both FK and IK. I'm going to go select them, go to Graph, and add selected to Graph. As you can see, we have all three constraints selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to organize these. So wrist, so let me see, do that, and then do that. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the controller that actually harnesses that attribute that I want it to control the switching, and I'm going to load that as well. So I'm going to add select that to graph so I can put it over here. So now what I want to do is I want to take the value of this, and have these switch between fk and ik according to 0 being fk and maximum 10 being ik. So technically what we could do right now, since 0 is being fed and that means we want fk to be active, the 0 value we want it to feed to ik, so then the ik doesn't have any value. So technically what I could do is go direct connection to here and put it into the ik constraint here, and then put in here ik, put in here ik into the ik system. So right now, since we're feeding a value of 0, fk is active. If you look at these constraints, now all these are set to 0. That means that fk is in full control of the actual bone setup, and if we move the ik setup, it has no control on the main bone. But here's the problem. Now if we switch this to 10, it's feeding a value of 10 to the constraints. Technically we don't need to go that high. It's a value from 0 to 1, but we're still, the fk is still at 1, so we're still gonna have that blending between both. And since 10 is a higher value, that means it's going to blend a little bit more to the IK system than it is to the FK. So we want to figure out a way how to switch. If one is 0, we want the other one to be 1 and vice versa. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill these connections here by selecting all the lines and just deleting them. And I'm going to set all these back to 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use utility nodes to get that effect that we want. So personally, what I've really used a lot is the reverse node and this color utility node called the remap value node, and I'll show you what these do right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fk to ik and then input this into the input value of that remap value node. So now if we look into the remap value node, you can see that it says input value is 10 because this is being fed to 10. Right now I'm going to give it a value of 0, so it's at 0. So here's a quick thing about this. So we have the input value of 0. Input minimum, input maximum is kind of pretty much what it says. It'll start taking the value when it hits 0. That means right now it's active and it's going to start taking numbers. Now the input max is how much value it can take. Like it's going to stop at that number. Since our set-driven keys from 0 to 10, we want to give the input maximum a value of 10 since that's where it stops. So then what that will do is that the output minimum, what we can start feeding it to other to anything that we want, it's going to start from 0 to 1. So when this hits 10, since that's the maximum value of 10, the maximum output is going to give 1 because that's all we need. So let's do that. So now since it's 0, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to feed this into the IK system. So we're going to take the out value and then we're going to take it to the IK, and as you can see, it's going to put it back to 0. And now if we take this out value into all three of these IKs, because we want FK to be active while this is 0. 0 is, like I said, FK is the 0, IK is the 10. Now as you can see, all these constraints are at 0 and FK is active, but if we switch this to IK 10, as you can see, it's not giving the value of 10, it's giving the value of 1, because the remap value node is calculating it from 0 to 10 and is only going to be shooting it from 0 to 1. But we still are not solving the issue that we need this to turn to 0 once IK is set to 1. So that's why we have this reverse node. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the out value and put it into an input X. So what this is doing is that since I'm feeding it a value of 10, which is technically outputting a value of 1, it's going to take that number and it's going to flip it. Technically why it's called a reverse node. It's going to flip that value back of the inverse of 1, which is going to be 0. So I'm going to take that output X and feed it into FK, because that's what we want. We want to have whatever the value is switched, so then we can have one on and one off. So I'm going to take this and put it into FK. Now as you can see, FK is turned off while IK is at 0, and that's how all the other ones are. So now if I move the IK system, so you can see it's being driven, it's all working, and now if I take this and I put it back to FK, as you can see now, each one of the constraints, now FK is 1, IK is at 0, and now you can control this. And since the node calculates on the fly, you still have that blend between FK to IK, as you can see. Yeah, so that is a quick way to use utility nodes instead of using set-driven keys. Like I said, it's a preference of mine. I like to make sure that I can make a rig that's suitable to the animator. There's no change on what they have to do. It's just that it's a little bit more user-proof. Also, another quick little tip. Let me see, where am I in time? Because I don't want to make this. Alright, well, I should be good. So really quick, you can also drive this for visibility on your controllers. So let's say I have, this is my FK all group right here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to add this into the group because this is pretty much what's taking all of it. And then the IK, which is this, and I'm just going to take this really quick and group it just for the sake of example. And I'm going to take this and add to select group. So then let's say group 2 is IK all group. So what we can do now is take the same thing. This is FK and this is IK. So to make it easier, sometimes we don't want to have all the controllers shown at once. It kind of confuses the animator. So what we can do is, since we're in FK, we want IK to be not visible. So then we can take this map, the value of here, and feed it into the visibility here. And as you can see, now the IK has disappeared, but we still need to have this be able to switch, like how the constraints are being worked. So I'm going to take the reverse node of this and X and put it into the visibility here. So now, as you can see, visibility is being driven as well as the IK as well. So now what we have here is that if we take this, we have both FK, IK switching, and we're controlling the visibility of the controllers itself. So then the animators know they're in IK mode right now and they're in FK mode over here. Yep. So yeah, so there's that's a little quick tip. I'm gonna try to make a little bit more little shortcuts here and there, tutorials, and if there's any requests that you guys want to know or you want to learn, I'll see if I know how to do it, and I'll make a video on it as well. I will also try to make some quick little videos on how to do Python tool creations in rigging, and I'll try to do some for modeling and animation as well, since I think it's very useful to have. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this, and hope this was useful for you. And yeah, till next time, I guess.